All right, I'm not the first person to glaze Chris Boucher. So, Chris Boucher is good and he can score, but he's not that good. He is an undrafted player and he's had quite the career. We're talking 3,451 points, which is actually pretty decent for how many years? 8 years in the league? Good for Chris Boucher. What this is this year. This is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about this year. So I'm not talking greatest undrafted players of all time. Alex Caruso is not on this list because he has not played enough games this year. To give you some idea of what I'm talking about here is what undrafted players are playing really well this year. But I also, I'll be honest, I give people credit if they've had a pretty good career. I give them a little extra boost. So I want to acknowledge them for the exact point in time we're in. But I also, you know, if they've signed a big contract, hey, I got to give it to them. I think in NBA media, we're always a little bit excited when an undrafted player signs a contract for more than $10 million, right? I think there's something nice about that. When a guy signs for like, you know, $20 million a year, but nobody believed in him enough to draft. I love it. So Chris Boucher is kind of one of those guys. He's making $10 million a year. I think he's going to be a free agent this coming offseason. But I think someone's going to trade for him. I think someone's going to trade for him at the deadline. I think someone's going to get tricked into it. They're going to think it's a really good idea because he's getting 10 points a game in 17 minutes, which is pretty solid. Also getting rebounds, 4.3. He does not pass the ball. He's sort of a dunker spot, shoot the ball, shoot a three. Not trash on defense. Of course, no, I think a Raptors fan watched the show. I was glazing Chris Boucher and they were like, hey, hold up, dude. He actually kind of sucks. We've been wanting to get rid of him for a long time. So if you were that Raptors fan, I don't mean to ask you to repeat yourself, but if you don't mind saying the exact same thing, I guess I could look up your comment. He is an NBA champion. I didn't realize he played for the Golden State Warriors. So he won a championship with the Golden State Warriors and with the Raptors. I have to say, he did not play very much in those playoffs though. But he has 2 rings, and you cannot take those away from him. His player impact estimate is actually really good too. If you're an advanced stat person, you believe in Chris Boucher. So some dork manager, I said dork really aggressively, but some, you know, nerdy, like general vice president of basketball operations from some team is going to say, I think we're going to make a deal for Chris Boucher. They're going to trade way too much for Chris Boucher. And he's not. It's going to be a good team, but he's just not going to get time. Sort of like how the Oklahoma City Thunder, remember when they traded for Gordon Hayward last year? Because they thought it would do something for them and it didn't. Sort of one of those situations. It also won't matter. It's also not a big enough trade to actually matter. Sort of how the Gordon Hayward trade was. I think they gave up was it a first rounder? Like a protected first rounder for Gordon Hayward? Gave him some minutes, and then ultimately they decided not to go with him. Gordon Hayward retired, didn't he? I think he did. Scotty Pippen Jr. So this is his first season of being good. So that's why he's like lower on this list, but 10.7 points per game. He is a part of that Grizzlies team. I thought it was cool. I thought it was cool because he was starting for Ja. That was why he started so many games. He started 16 games this year, and if you look, they're games where Ja has been out. So I thought, oh, good for him. Good for Scotty Pippen Jr. He's in there. He's filling in. He's eating the innings. He's eating the minutes. Good for him. Not really. I watched games where he is starting. He is not a starting point guard in the league. Typically, they do lose those games. So, still good. Shouldn't be starting. Still good for Scotty Pippen Jr. I love seeing... I was rooting for Sharif? Not Ari Shaffir. Sharif ONeal. I wanted him to play well. I wanted Zaire Wade to play well. There seems to be a very interesting correlation for how good your dad was and how good you are in the league. But Scottie Pippen is sort of defying that. And he's, like he played for the Lakers a few years ago. Didn't play very much, but I think the opportunity has risen for him in Memphis, and he's really seizing it. He's dangerous from three, 38%. That's not bad. And he's getting some steals. It's only going up, is what I'm saying. Amir Coffey. I've always found him really interesting because he's been solid. He is sort of the Udonis Haslem of the Clippers. The thing is, his contract is coming up. His contract is expiring this year. So, and he's played his whole career with the Agua Caliente Clippers, that's the G League affiliate, and the Clippers. And he's just done it. He's been good. This year he's 43% from three, shooting 3.9. And so he has had a good season before. 21-22 was a great season for him. He started 30 games, averaged 9 points a game. So he has had opportunity. When has he had opportunity? Take a guess. He's a Clipper. When Kawhi and Paul George have been out. He's a shooting guard. But you can tell he gets slotted in there. He gets slotted in there to make up for those minutes. He does not start, but he does get slotted in there to make up those minutes. And he plays pretty well. The unfortunate thing is he's a scorer. He's sort of like a diet Norm Powell. But I think he signs a bigger contract next year and he goes somewhere else, is what my assumption is. Because this is a good year for him because Kawhi, I don't know. I don't know what the deal is. Is he going to play some days? Is he not? How do you think the Clippers are? The Clippers have to be, they have to regret it. They have to regret that 3-year extension, that $150 million. They thought, yes, let's just try it. We're not going to do a full 4 years. We're going to give him 3. We're giving him less than the max, but we're going to bet on Kawhi, not Paul George. And it was a bad idea. Do you think he's tradable? Do you want Kawhi? If you're a Clippers fan, are you like, no, we want him. He's got it. He's got game. He's coming back. Ramping up. Ryan Russillo and Bill Simmons were talking about the phrase ramping up, which I say it all the time. It's like, hey, they're ramping up. Hey, it's when you haven't, there's no accountability with ramping up. We're ramping up. What does that mean? We're getting it going. Here we go. It doesn't mean you've started. It doesn't mean progress has been made. You haven't broke ground. You're ramping up. No accountability. So Amir Coffey, he's saying sayonara next year. Undrafted dude, probably going to sign there's going to be a team that says, hey, we actually want him to start on our team, and we will pay him over $10 million. Who makes more money next year? Yabusele? Gerson Yabusele? Or Amir Coffey? You have to be a real NBA sicko to answer that question. If you have an opinion on that, you are obsessed to an unhealthy degree. You don't have a social life, or maybe you do. Do you have do other people have social lives that involve conversations about who's going to have a bigger contract between Amir Coffey and Gerson Yabusele? No, that conversation happens on the internet. So Caleb Martin is one of my favorite players because I remember when him and his brother, I think it's impossible. Well, no, actually, but it typically, do you remember True Life, the MTV show? I'm old. I'm older than most people that watch this show, but there was a show called True Life, and they followed twins, and twins had very codependent relationships, and I believe that had to be the case with Caleb Martin and Cody Martin. They both went to the same colleges. Yeah, they transferred at the same time. They both entered the draft the same year. Cody was drafted. Caleb Martin was not drafted. Cody was drafted late in the second round, but Caleb did not get drafted. Caleb also cut by the Hornets. Cody is still a Hornet. Caleb Martin has a better career now than Cody. Good. That's like a kind of an interesting story. You've been on your brother's team your entire life, then you get waived. You get waived by the Hornets, and your brother stays a Hornet. You get picked up by the Miami Heat. You make it to the finals. Then you sign with the Sixers, and you're now a starter with the Sixers. It's a great story. He's not shooting free throws very well, though. Anyway, he's becoming... So I'm a Sixers hate watcher, but now I'm actually just like a Sixers fan because I've sort of grown an affection for Kelly Oubre, Gerson Yabusele, and Ricky Council, and even Reggie Jackson. I've always liked Reggie Jackson. So now I watch the games and I'm like, oh, these are like underdog guys. They're awesome, and I'm rooting for them. So now I watch Sixers games, and I find myself, I was like, oh, I'm a Sixers fan now. I'm not hate watching this. I actually enjoy it. Mainly because, you know, if Embiid's not playing, I'm a Sixers fan. If Paul George isn't playing, I'm a Sixers fan. Maxi's developing an attitude, and I really don't like it. He's changing, and it sucks. He's becoming a prima donna, and I'm watching it happen. And, but such is the course of celebrity. Royce ONeal. Royce ONeal has always been loved in the NBA. Anytime you see him, anytime they mic him up, he's always smiling. He's always happy to be there. There's actually a video. It's in those like funny NBA moments compilations, which I always love. They truly bring me joy. But there's one where Royce ONeal walks over to where Ty Lue is giving his sort of coming up with a play. It's during a timeout, but Royce ONeal's over like looking at it, and Ty Lue catches him looking over, and Royce starts laughing, and then Ty starts laughing. Ty's not even mad. He just thinks it's funny. That's how much people like Royce ONeal, is they just see him like, oh, you get out of here, which I love. So I think players really like playing with Royce ONeal, and honestly, being such a role player has been a detriment to his career. He wasn't drafted. He had to go play overseas for a couple years. And then even overseas, he didn't really get that much respect. But then he played in summer league with the Jazz, and that's when people noticed, hey, this guy is actually an incredible glue guy. And now, what's he in? He signed a 4-year, $42 million contract. So that's kind of I think that would be an interesting thing, being a scout and being able to recognize what player has talent, but it's sort of hidden because what they do best is showcase other people and facilitate other scorers. This is sort of who Royce ONeal is. He's shooting 44% from 3 at 5.7 a game. Not like he's not shooting. He's shooting better than Beal, Durant, Grayson Allen, and then going without saying, he's shooting better than Devin Booker. He's the best shooter on the Suns. Man, what are the Suns going to do? What do you think their move is? If I'm the Heat, let's talk about this. If you're the Heat, do you do the Bradley Beal for Jimmy Butler trade? This is the funny thing to me, because I thought it was interesting that Pat Riley was saying, yeah, we're not interested in the Beal contract. Here's the thing, Pat Riley. You've not been in this position before. What you don't realize is you have a problem. If you want to get out of your problem, the only way to get out of it is to trade your problem for another team's problem. Bradley Beal is another team's problem. You can take on Bradley Beal's contract, which is like Jimmy Butler's contract, but it's for an additional year. So you're paying $50 million for another year. That's what you have. So you can't just find yourself in this position where it's sour grapes between you and your star player and then say, all right, well, let's get this star out of here. Give us another star. You take our star. Things have gone bad. It's like, no, you're in a bad position. Because other teams are looking at Jimmy Butler's contract and they're like, yeah, well, but I don't know what we're going to do. He's going to opt into that $50 million. Also, when he gets here, he's going to be saying, all right, let's talk contract. I don't want $50 million a year. I want 4 years. I want the last year to be an option. And then we're in the same position you are, because we're going to say, no, that's too much money. You're 36. So you're trading a fight. You're like, anyone want this like fight with Jimmy Butler that's going to come to fruition in a couple months? You want him? He's sort of mad that we didn't pay him already. So if we give him to you, he's still going to be mad. Now he's going to be mad at you for not paying him. Unless, of course, we want to trade him to Brooklyn, who has cap space. Or, you know what I mean? Like, is Brooklyn... No. And you wouldn't even necessarily need cap space, but he's going to want extended. He's going to want to turn down that option and sign a new contract for $50 million. Every team in the NBA is good now. Almost every team in the NBA is good. Nobody wants Jimmy Butler. You have to trade for a problem, which is Bradley Beal, which is, unfortunately, for the Heat, once you've like soured a relationship, there's no way Jimmy Butler is going to come back and play another game for the Miami Heat. That is done. And that is a bad position to be in for an NBA team. It was the same position the Sixers were in with Ben Simmons. It is bad because your only choices are to sit on that contract and then get in a lawsuit at the end of the season, or say, I guess we'll take Bradley Beal for an extra year. That's where it's going. That's where it's going. Anyway, Royce ONeal, good guy. Did I have anything else? I feel bad. I just used all that time to talk about Jimmy Butler and didn't really glaze. I glazed Royce enough. Been in the league for 8 seasons. Never played less than 69 games a season. Nice. If the guys on the Hoop Collective say nice after saying 69, I feel like I have to. Because they did. I was watching today, they did. And I like those guys. I like their dynamic. I like that show. I like so many NBA podcasts. Dort, one of everyone's favorite undrafted player. Is that fair? Came up out the mud. Signed. He's probably the highest paid undrafted player right now, I think. He signed a 5-year deal. He wanted to stay in Oklahoma. Oklahoma City believed in him. He was an Oklahoma City Blue, similar to Alex Caruso, and he came up through the ranks. So he's loyal to them, and they're loyal to him. Because I remember when he signed that 5-year, $82 million contract, people were like, whoa, for Lou Dort? For Lou Dort? Whoa, Lou's getting paid. So much disrespect. Any team wants that contract now. Any team would, granted the salary cap's gone up, but any team would want that contract. Interesting, Lou Dort is not on the hustle stats. But then I watched some of his game, and he's the best help defender. He takes the toughest assignment, and then he's the best. He's better than Caruso. He's a better defender than Caruso. Even though Caruso is good, Lou Dort is a better help defender. Because he doesn't always stay on his man. He knows when to leave his man. He's the longest tenured Oklahoma City player. Did you know that? Because he came up, I remember when I first got acquainted with him, it was that season that Chris Paul was on the Oklahoma City Thunder, and they played against the Rockets, and Lou Dort played against James Harden when he was James Harden, when he was MVP James Harden, and he locked him up, but not tight enough to win the series in 2020. Rockets went on to play the Lakers. Lakers beat them. 2020 is seared in my head. Julian Champagne, I remember, I didn't realize he had a brother in the league. I think the Holiday brothers, I had this once. Probably had it with them. No, because I remember seeing 2 Martin brothers out on the court for the Hornets. I was like, what the hell? Am I drunk? But Julian Champagne and Justin Champagne, they aren't really like the Martin brothers because they went to different colleges. And Julian went undrafted the year before Justin actually went undrafted. So 21-22 were the 2 years that they were in the draft. Julian was in the draft in 2022. Julian having a better season than Justin. Justin's at the Wizards. Justin is still having a good season, though. He's a part of the Spurs team. He started in 26 games. He's getting 27 minutes a game, shooting 30% from 3, shooting 7 threes a game. And he is getting rebounds. So he's replacing Devin Vassell. And I thought, well, maybe, hey, Devin Vassell is back. I thought, hey, maybe Julian Champagne's the better option. No, Devin Vassell is a better player. But, nevertheless, great season for Julian Champagne. Doing really well. Who knows what... I didn't check what contract he's on. I'm sure he's on a cheap contract. But hopefully he didn't sign a long contract because he could probably get some money this offseason. I've been enjoying watching them play. I love watching the underdogs. So, yeah, he'll probably start for a team next year. If he, depending on what the Spurs want to do around Victor Wembanyama. Automatic from the free throw line. 89%. Let's move on. So Naz Reid, undrafted player. He reminds me of Trez in that he has dreadlocks. Big dude with dreadlocks. But he reminds me of Trez in that he doesn't want to start. He's a sixth man of the year. Trez was also a sixth man of the year once, and he didn't want to start either. He wanted to come off the bench. He liked being the sixth man, and that is what Naz does as well. So Naz is one of the best undrafted players in the league, but he is not having the season he was having last year. Last year he was shooting like 40% from three. He was getting more points per game, but hey, still a great undrafted player. So, Timberwolves right now, so I'm recording on Friday. This comes out on Monday. But as of now, they're on a 3-game win streak. Things are starting to turn around for the Timberwolves. It is funny that people thought they could get rid of Cat. I feel like Cat's having the best revenge here, right? Because he was on a huge contract. Minnesota is cheap, so they're like, hey, let's try to get off his contract. We're going to be deep in the luxury tax if we don't get rid of one of these big contracts. Obviously, the easiest one to get rid of is going to be Cat because people want Cat. So bring in Julius Randle. It'll all be the same. We'll be back in the Western Conference Finals. No. Oh, man. Turns out Cat's good. Turns out we miss him. Oh, he's our second best scorer. Julius Randle's not that... I'm just kidding around. Julius Randle's good. But, yeah, Naz has to do a lot more. I think he's actually getting more minutes this year. So, great player. Great undrafted player. Highest scorer so far on this list. Speaking of where we're at on this list, let's keep moving. Fred. Okay, so Fred, I put him higher up. I'll be honest. I put him higher up because he is an all-star. He's the only undrafted all-star, I think, in the league right now. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, and he's a champion as well. So I had to do it. 15 points a game. Again, highest scorer now, highest scorer on this list so far. He's the starting point guard on the second best team in the West. I had to give it to Fred VanVleet as the second best undrafted player in the league currently. And I know. He can't shoot threes. He's putting up a lot of threes. He can't shoot them. Still, he is passing the ball to Green and Sengun a lot, but he definitely was on my list of guys that should shoot less. So, 9 years in the league, all-star, champion, starting point guard, and the second best team in the West. You're doing great. Not an incredible season, Fred, but your team is good, and we love watching you yell at refs. He has to be the biggest baby in the league, I think. Granted, Luka is more of a consistent baby, but Fred is an intense baby at times. I thought he touched that ref. I thought he was going to be... I think if he touched that ref, if he pointed, they touched him like that, I think he's out for the season. I think they would have... Right? Can't touch a ref. It's like shooting a cop. You ever watch The Wire? Weebay has to go to Philadelphia because he shot a cop. It's like that. So, Austin Reeves. Granted, I am not an Austin Reeves glazer, but by far, best undrafted player this year. 18.3 points per game. Ooh, we're flirting with... I mean, if the Lakers are kind of good, there's part of you that's like, oh, could he be an all-star? Could Austin Reeves be an all-star? 1.1 steals a game? 5.9 assists? Oh, man. Andy's a Laker. Lakers fans come out. They show out for voting. He won't be, but, you know, the fact that I'm even talking about it makes him number one on this list. And the thing I really find interesting about him, it's crazy. He's a 4-year, $53 million contract. And nobody outbid the Lakers. Do you remember when he signed that contract? I remember Bill Simmons talking about it, saying someone's going to drive the price up for him. Because basically, I think the Lakers had first refusal rights, if I remember correctly. But I don't remember exactly how that worked. But they thought that the Spurs were going to offer him something like 4 years, $80 million. And they thought that was a good price. So he's 4 years, $53 million, undrafted player. And we're still saying that's underpaid. Good for you, Austin Reeves. Austin Reeves, I have to say, very similar story in relationship to LeBron as Caruso. So I remember when Caruso started playing for the Lakers, it was during that season that the Lakers were bad. This was the year before 2020 when AD joined. They didn't make the playoffs. They were terrible. So they were giving Caruso minutes. And I remember all of us sort of watching him play. Caruso looked kind of funny at the time. He doesn't look as hard as he does now. But people made jokes about him. They literally made fun of him. They bullied him. And then they realized, like, but he's good. They realized this guy has a lot of talent. And I think the same thing with Austin Reaves. Back when Austin Reaves had the sort of emo bangs, everyone kind of made fun of him as this boy from Arkansas, country boy from Arkansas, getting minutes because the Lakers were bad. Again, this was the season the Westbrook season, where they didn't make the playoffs. So Austin Reaves got minutes. And I think LeBron has a lot to do with the success of both of these white guys. Pretty cool. I think that might be all I have for Austin Reaves. All right. Almost didn't cough. I'm in the next video, one of the videos coming up, I had to backlog it because I'm sick, but I'm going out of the country for a while. So I'm not sick forever. I'm just backlogging during a week that I'm sick. I'm not dying of lupus. Be good to your mothers. Eat a corn dog. Thanks for being here, y'all.